Currently, Africa stands at a critical juncture characterized by a complex interplay of external influence, regional dynamics, and pressing security challenges. The continent has witnessed a significant shift in its relations with former colonial powers, particularly evident in West Africa, where dissatisfaction with historical ties has led to a quest for new partnerships. This shift is underscored by the growing rivalry between France and Russia, as West African nations seek to navigate a landscape marked by neocolonial practices and security threats. Amidst heightened competition among international actors, Africa has experienced both positive outcomes, such as increased foreign investment and aid leading to infrastructure development, and negative consequences, including resource-driven conflicts and challenges to local governance structures. Some thoughts from the West on Africa.
We economic hitmen really have been the ones responsible for creating this first truly global empire. And we work many different ways. But perhaps the most common is that we will identify a country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sister organizations. But the money never actually goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our big corporations to build infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, industrial parks, ports, things that benefit a few rich people in that country, in addition to our corporations, but really don't help the majority of the people at all. However, those people, the whole country is left holding a huge debt. It's such a big debt they can't repay it, and that's part of the plan, that they can't repay it. And so at some point, we economic hitmen go back to them and say, listen, you owe us a lot of money, can't pay your debt, so sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Allow us to build a military base in your country, or send troops in support of ours to someplace in the world like Iraq, or vote with us on the next UN vote. To have their electric utility company privatized and their water and sewage system privatized and sold to U.S. corporations or other multinational corporations. So there was that whole mushrooming thing, and it's so typical of the way the IMF and the World Bank work, that you put a country in debt, it's such a big debt it can't pay it, and then you offer to refinance that debt and pay even more interest. And you demand this quid pro quo, which you call a conditionality or good governance, which means basically that they've got to sell off their resources, including many of their social services, their utility companies, their school systems sometimes, their penal systems, their insurance systems, to foreign corporations. So it's a double, triple, quadruple whammy.
Senegal, former French colony, relatively developed by African standards, and the French are going to be experiencing a renaissance both in terms of their own economy and their ability to reach out to their relatively near abroad. And that means Senegal is likely to experience a sort of a neo-colonial fusion. I don't mean to suggest it's going to be conquered, but if you are the French in a post-American world and you're looking for places to put a flag, Senegal checks a lot of the boxes. It's on the other side of Morocco, which would give you more influence in Morocco. It's more economically viable. It's easier to penetrate in the interior. And these people, for the most part, already speak French. We all are a little bit racist, but the French are a lot more racist to Arabs than they are to Senegalese. They consider black sub-Saharan Africans to be more legitimate aspirants to the French identity than they do, say, Algerian Muslims. And so I expect a bit of a cooperation, free trade deal, association, neo-imperial, if you want to call it, between the two countries. Nigeria, night and day different. Nigeria is a powerhouse. One of the fastest growing economies in the world, produces, based on the day, somewhere between 1.5 and 4.5 million barrels a day of crude, a lot of natural gas, exports LNG, and is a country that has a foot in the Sahel and a foot in the tropics. It's made up of a number of ethnic groups that have not always gotten along. There has been a civil war there in the past. Don't think that's going to repeat anytime soon because that infrastructure build out. There's more integration among these peoples now. And if you are Britain or France or anyone in Europe who is looking for oil, Nigeria is a place that's just way too powerful to conquer, but also not quite sufficiently competent to run everything on its own. Think of it this way. In the pre-industrial age, when the Brits conquered Nigeria as part of their imperial build-out, they brought guns to knife fights. Wasn't a fair fight. Well, the Nigerians all have guns now. And while the Brits may have better guns, good guns versus bad guns is still guns versus guns. And you throw in that the Nigerians have, what's their population today? It's a lot. You can't have an old colonial conquering, especially since a lot of these people live on the coastal south where the oil is. The Brits, the French, the Americans would just be incapable. And so you'll get more of a negotiated partnership between the two that'll serve a lot more interest on both sides.
To a contest of what is governance. Who is governed, which countries are governed well. And if so many of these countries around the world are incapable of governing themselves, then it's time for us to just put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually making their country better.
People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Eric Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes.
In the face of evolving geopolitical dynamics and rising global competition, Africa stands at a critical juncture where the urgency to prepare for self-defense has never been greater as external powers vie for influence and resources on the continent. African nations must prioritize the development of robust defense capabilities to safeguard their sovereignty. Thus, investing in defense infrastructure, technology, and strategic partnerships is paramount to ensure that Africa can assert itself confidently and effectively amidst the complexities of the global arena. In the context of Africa's situation, particularly regarding security and stability, in many African nations, the reliance on mercenary or auxiliary forces, either internally or auxiliary source, has been a common feature, especially in conflicts and peacekeeping efforts. However, Machiavelli's assertion that such forces are useless and dangerous resonates with certain realities in Africa. Firstly, the use of mercenaries or auxiliary forces can undermine the cohesion and discipline of a state's armed forces. These forces may lack loyalty to the state and its leadership, posing a threat to stability and security. Additionally, the fragmented nature of mercenary groups can lead to internal divisions and conflicts, further weakening the state's ability to defend itself effectively. Moreover, the reliance on mercenary or auxiliary forces can perpetuate a cycle of dependency and insecurity. Instead of building a strong, self-reliant military capable of defending the state, reliance on external forces can leave a nation vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation by foreign powers. This vulnerability can extend to economic exploitation and political interference, as external actors may leverage their military support to exert influence over the state's affairs. Share your thoughts on Africa's situation in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content. Thanks for watching.